Yo, what's up, guys? We're back, and this week it's for another UFC breakdown and predictions video. It's going to be Amanda Lemos taking on Jessica Andrade in the main event, and it's a okay card overall. There's some interesting fights, but then there's some not so great fights. There's some great MMA cards all over the board this week, though. There's two Bellator cards. We got an LFA card. We got a KSW. We got a Fury FC. So there's a ton of stuff going on, and like always, if you want to check out the extra content from other promotions, I am going to be doing at least one of the two Bellator prediction videos as well. Maybe a little bit of video on both, but there's a lot of MMA going on this week, so pretty busy. And yeah, so if you want to check out that video and other content, my bets for this week, check out the Patreon, and definitely some good content there coming this week. And yeah, just right before we get this video started, I want to give a big shout out to a new sponsor for the channel, and that is going to be cashflowmma.com. And right now they're doing something really cool. They're doing a nice little promotion here for us where if you use the promo code MMA Guru right now when you register, you will get a free membership until May 31st. You get to kind of feel them out, see what type of picks they have. And yeah, it gives one of the best MMA predictions online. I know people that listen to me, they always want to try to get a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. You know, as many opinions as possible is what helps. And yeah, they've increased their users' money by a really large percentage, which is, really good. And last week they had a few good parlays, things like that. You could check their thing out. You could see the results that they have for the events and things like that. And they do show the money that they made. And yeah, so if you want to go check them out, like I said, use the promo code MMAGuru and you will get a free membership until May 31st. So it's not like you have to pay anything at the moment. You get to check them out, see what they have to offer. And I do feel like they have a good service. So if you want to get a second, third opinion on your MMA knowledge, try to get in on some more bets, make some money, definitely check out cashflowmma.com. And the link's going to be in the description. Really appreciate it if you would use the promo code. And yeah, so let's get into the UFC Vegas 52 breakdown prediction video now. This first fight is a little bit of a strange one, right? I mean, we have Dean Barry, who's 4-1. He's coming on. He's taking on the technically 0-1-1 Mike Jackson. And Dean Barry, he's a guy that has been linked to a UFC fight for a long time. And it seems like they really want to give him Mike Jackson for some reason because he was linked to fights with Mike Jackson in January and May of last year. He was forced to withdraw from the January fight. Jackson was, I believe, and then Dean Barry had visa issues. He couldn't get into the United States, and he actually got cut from the UFC without even having another fight, just due to not being able to, make it over. And eventually, I guess he got that all resolved. He came over and he fought in Titan FC. And he did fight a 6-30 opponent, so wasn't as if he really proved he was UFC level or anything. But he was able to get the knockout in 21 seconds, moved along, and now he's going to be in the UFC. And he's a SBG Ireland fighter. I do think, that might be one of the main reasons he's getting a shot at the UFC at this stage in his career. He's 4-1. All of his wins have came via first-round knockout, and he does have a pretty good little fan base behind him. But still very green. He's only had one fight that went past the first round. He got choked out by Anthony Taylor in that fight. And the level of opposition for Barry has not been good. Only one of Barry's 5 opponents have had a winning record. And the UFC must like what they see from Barry, though, because they're setting him up with Mike Jackson. And Mike Jackson, obviously he's 0-1. I do think Barry will struggle long-term in the UFC, but obviously it's hard to turn down this type of opportunity when they're letting you come in and fight a guy like Mike Jackson. But Mike Jackson, I mean, he's had one of the strangest careers in UFC history. This is actually going to be his 3rd UFC fight. He fought Mickey Gall in his first fight. And if you guys remember, the fight with Mickey Gall was kind of a strange one. I mean, it was two guys that were fighting to fight CM Punk. The winner was going to face CM Punk, and Mike Jackson ended up getting dropped and choked out in 45 seconds by Mickey Gall, so it wasn't a good look there, good performance there. And then he ended up fighting CM Punk, went all 3 rounds, got the win, but then after he failed his drug test for marijuana, the fight ended up changing into a no contest. And even with the victory, a lot of people were really critical about, him going to decision with CM Punk, kind of goofing around during the fight. And it's been quite a while since that fight as well. He hasn't fought it for almost 4 years at this point. He's 37 years old. He's been away from the octagon for 46 months. So to me, I don't really see, a big future for him, but I guess he's in there just trying to have fun, make a paycheck, and keep fighting. So Jackson, he's tall for the division. He's 6'2", and he's a good boxer. I mean, he has a good lead hand, nice jab, good lead hook, and good 1-2, good 3-2. That's really what he basically does. He doesn't really throw kicks, and he has good composure. He likes to dig to the body. He will try to throw some elbows over the top, and he picks his shots fairly well. But it seems like he's one of these guys, and it makes sense due to just obviously not fighting very much, probably just being more of a sparring guy, because it seems like he allows guys to back him up really easily, and he gets way too enthralled with his head movement, being cute, trying to make fighters miss, and it can look good, but he can let shots slip in, get hurt, and he's not being offensive in those moments. To me, it's like he's pretty technical with his boxing, but he's older, he's not the greatest athlete, and I feel like he struggles with the aggression of certain pro fighters. Like Mike Jackson dropped him with the cross Mickey Gall, dropped Mike Jackson with the cross within the first 30 seconds. I definitely feel like Jackson's chin is a little bit questionable. And on the ground, when he got taken down by Gall, he immediately gave the neck, wanted it out of there, and got submitted with the rear naked choke. So I don't think that if the going gets tough, Mike Jackson's the type of guy that really wants to stick in there. But Jackson, I do think he has questionable grappling. I mean, it seems like his clinch game is all right, but I'm basing that off his fight with CM Punk. And anytime you're getting taken down by CM Punk, I don't really think I need to say much more. CM Punk got the takedown in the first round. He got some control time against the cage. And, Mike Jackson did eventually start to control the clinch. And CM Punk, I think, pulled guard one time or jumped guillotine. And then Jackson was able to get on top, control him for kind of the second and third round, but didn't really do much on top. I mean, it didn't seem like he's the greatest grappler. But one thing I do give Mike Jackson credit for is his composure, his cardio. He's been in the UFC twice, and even if he was fighting a low-level guy like CM Punk, it's a massive moment, and he handled it well. He stayed calm, and he had cardio for 3 rounds. So that was good to see, but, overall, I don't think he's necessarily a UFC-level fighter. Dean Barry, I don't know if he is either, but he's a karate striker, hands-down style. He has pretty good distance control, likes to use those long-range weapons. Due to the fact that Jackson is a lot taller, I do think the lead hand may be a bit of an issue, but I think the wide stance is going to make it tough to land the jab consistently. I think, Barry being southpaw, he likes to throw a lot of those side kicks. I think those are going to be effective. I think his leg kicks are going to be effective. He has really good lead leg high kicks. I think, if he can get Jackson to dip into one of those high kicks, he could get a highlight reel knockout. And he's good at, attacking with that rear cross. So that's kind of what he looks for. He tries to time the high kicks. He'll try to time spinning kicks. He has that good rear cross, good distance control. And he wants to just move in and out, try to frustrate you and then knock you out. Fighters that can't close the distance and make it more of a boxing match can give him a little bit of issues, but they have to be able to pressure and be able to cut the cage off, walk him down. And Dean Barry, his takedown defense looks okay. He will throw naked kicks, and he does get taken down due to that. I do think he needs to improve his grappling and wrestling long term, but this fight, I don't really see it being much of an issue. He has good distance control. I don't think Jackson's grappling is something he has to worry about for the most part. Even if Jackson attempts takedowns, I don't think he'll be able to control Barry on the ground and hold him down. Dean Barry's cardio is still unknown. His only MMA fight that's gone past the first round, he did lose. I don't even think he was really gassed in that fight. Anthony Taylor just went for a real explosive double, got him down, and then Barry did show his greediness on the ground. He gave his back and immediately got subbed. But I don't think Jackson has that explosiveness. He's not going to be looking to hit takedowns like that. And I think that Dean Barry is just the more diverse striker here. He really isn't the most offensive fighter, and he does like to work off the counter. So I definitely could see this fight being a little bit boring if it goes long. But, Barry just kicking and moving, not getting touched very much. I don't really know if Mike Jackson's going to take much risks to get inside and get his boxing going. I think he might be content to just lose a decision where he's getting kicked, maybe try to showboat and land minimal punches during the fight. I think Barry is really not that good, though. But there is a chance that he could go out there and blitz with the first round too, with the high kick, with the big cross. But I think either Dean Barry's going to win via first round knockout, or he's going to win kind of a boring decision. And long term, I don't really know about Dean Barry, but with this fight, I think the UFC's trying to set him up here to get the victory, and I do think he's going to be able to, get the win over Mike Jackson. Him being a minus 900 favorite, don't really know about that, but yeah, I think that Dean Barry will get the victory. We got another low-level fight in this next one, really, with Marcin taking on Phillipe Lins in the light heavyweight division. Prochnio, he has turned his career around, though. You have to give him credit. He started 0-3 in the UFC. He went in there with Sam Alvey, Magomed Ankalaev for his first 2 UFC fights, which aren't easy matches for someone earlier in the UFC career. And then he got knocked out by Mike Rodriguez, which was a bit of a bad loss. And he was knocked out in the first round in all 3 of those fights. So his UFC career kind of did look dead in the water. Yeah, Prochnio, he has been able to win his last 2 fights, though. He defeated Khalil Roundtree. He beat Ike Villanueva via body kick knockout. So a 3rd win in a row would be huge for Prochnio. Prochnio is a kickboxer. He has good movement. He will use the in-and-out footwork. And he needs to be mobile in this fight. He's explosive. He's athletic. And he throws some nice kicks. Good lead leg side kicks. He throws oblique kicks. He will feint the hands to try to open up that rear leg kick to the body or the head. And he has power in his hands and his feet. His punches are a bit sloppy. I think he should avoid the boxing range in combinations of Lins. Try to stick on the outside, use kicks. Showed a great ability to, kick against a power puncher like Khalil Roundtree. Roundtree didn't really bring the pressure in that fight like I expected, or like I expect Lins to. And you did see Prochnio start to slow down, break down, and become more stationary in that fight. Roundtree with his cardio couldn't really make him pay for it. I think in the pocket exchanging punches with Lins, Prochnio will be in danger. Some people may question Prochnio's chin a little bit, and I do think it's an issue to an extent, but he's proven he's durable enough with matchups against Roundtree, against Villanueva. He isn't super chinny. He got rocked in both those fights and was able to endure and battle back. The strikes that he got knocked out with were head kicks, elbows. He ran headfirst into a punch, so they were definitely very powerful strikes. And Prochnio, he hasn't really shown grappling in any of his fights. I did see him struggle in the clinch against Mike Rodriguez, but outside of that, I haven't seen him attempt too many takedowns. None of his opponents have really tried to wrestle with him or grapple too heavily. I don't really think Lins will do that either. Cardio-wise, Prochnio, I do think slows down, but he has serviceable cardio because he keeps the volume fairly high. He moves a lot for a light heavyweight, and he's able to usually win the decisions that he ends up getting into. Phillipe Lins, he's a guy who, since joining the UFC, has had nothing but bad luck. He lost his first 2 UFC fights, got knocked out in the first round in his last fight against Tanner Boser, and he was going to come back at heavyweight, but I don't know what happened. He had fights against Dontel Mays, against Ben Rothwell scheduled, but none of those bouts ended up materializing, and then Lins ended up deciding to drop down to 205, had a matchup set with Ovin St. Preux in November of last year, and then a matchup with Azamat Murzakanov in December, but neither of those fights happened either. So he had 6 consecutive fights canceled. So it's been over a year since he's fought, and he's had a lot of fights scheduled that didn't come through. So I'm sure he is really, really ready to get back in the cage for this one. He's probably had to put in a lot of work to get back to 205. He has been fighting at heavyweight for the last few years. He won that $1 million in the PFL in the heavyweight division, but before that, he was fighting at light heavyweight, and he's always been a relatively small heavyweight, so I do think that he'll make the weight fairly easily, and he needs to win here. I mean, he gets paid a lot of money, and if he can't win this fight, it could be 3 strikes now in the UFC for Phillipe Lins. But Phillipe Lins, he's a pretty skilled fighter, good footwork, he has good feints, he'll throw some low kicks, his boxing is good, and for a big guy, he puts some nice combos together. He'll land the 1-2s, he'll let go with fast hooks. He has nice counter right hook. Good job of jabbing the body to open up his headshots. And he's fairly hard to hit. He stays, pretty good with his head movement. He's always kind of feinting and giving different looks. He stays quick. And, one thing, though, that I think he does struggle with are movers. We saw Vadim Nemkov and Bellator move around, kind of freeze him, and then walked him into a big shot. Arlovsky was able to stick and move and won a decision against Lins. And Lynch doesn't really move his head. He's willing to brawl, so that has led to him being knocked out 3 times. His chin is a little bit questionable. Last fight with Tanner Boser, he got put out cold. It was kind of weird, though, because he got hit with a looping shot. They hit him behind the head, and it looked like it kind of froze him. And then Boser just unloaded and put him to sleep. So kind of unlucky, but, you know, he got clipped and he couldn't take it. And Lynch does tend to slow down. He has a big volume drop after the first round. And he can't afford to do that against Prochnio, who stays pretty active over 3 rounds. I do think coming down to 205, he could be a little bit more aggressive, maybe take a little bit more risks, eat a little bit more punches because he's not facing such big guys. And I think he might be able to keep a higher pace as well if he has to get in better shape to cut that weight. He's not that active of a grappler, but I have seen him hit some double legs. His clinch control is okay. He has good knees. And when he can get on top, he does do some damage with his ground and pound. Takedown defense is pretty high level. He's proven that by beating heavier wrestlers up a weight class. And he has good guillotines. I've seen him jump guillotines and finish fights with subs. So his jiu-jitsu is fairly dangerous. I don't really think that Lynch would have to worry about many takedowns from Prochnio. And he needs to have his cardio on point. He needs to make weight effectively in this fight. If he has a rough weight cut, maybe we'll get knocked out or slow way down. And so we need to monitor that. But I do expect Lynch to be super hungry here. He has to be ready to fight for his job. And I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to pick Phillipe Lynch in this fight. I think he's the guy who's going to come forward, stay more technical, tight throughout the fight. I believe that he'll be able to land the better punches on the inside. And I think the kicking volume from Prochnio tends to drop after the first round. I think he'll probably be able to knock Prochnio out in the second or third. I think if Prochnio wins, he'll use his movement, his footwork, keep Lynch at a distance, or maybe even land a big kick to the body or head that closes the show like he did in his last fight. Prochnio is the fighter on the high right now and with the momentum, so most people I assume are going to go with him, but I think Lynch is a bit more skillful, could get the job done, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Lynch by knockout. I'm going to say he wins via second or third round TKO, and I think he saves his UFC career. This next fight's a short notice matchup, and someone is going to pick up their first UFC win. Preston Parsons, he came to the UFC last year and he had a difficult assignment. He was tasked with taking on Daniel Rodriguez, and Rodriguez cleaned him up. He finished him in the first round. Now Parsons in his second go-round, and he probably feels much more prepared. He's had a full camp. He's fighting someone closer to his skill level. And originally it was going to be Louis Kosi, but Kosi was forced to pull out. Now he's getting Evan Elder, who's making his UFC debut. Elder's a 7-0 fighter fighting out of Sanford. And he's coming in on short notice, but he was getting ready to fight someone on May 5th, so has been training. He's probably in good shape. Normally, Elder does fight at 155 pounds, though, so he is having to bump up a weight class for this one. And Evan Elder, he hasn't really fought anyone that was very high level. His last victory was over a 9-16 fighter. His best win of his career came against someone who was 4-1. And only 2 opponents have had winning records that Elder has fought. Elder's only fought 2 opponents who've had more than 10 fights as well. So his level of competition has been fairly low. But you can kind of say the same thing about Parsons. I do think Parsons has faced some higher level competition, especially in his UFC debut. He kind of got to get a taste of that close to top 15 level. But he also has fought a lot of lower level guys as well. But Elder, he looks heavy-handed and he has pretty good timing. He has good accuracy, nice left hook. His right cross is pretty good. He likes to dig to the body to open up the head, and he looks like he's working on his kicks because in his last fight, he threw more kicks than I've seen in any of his other fights. He's landing pretty good leg kicks, pretty good body kicks, and his footwork is pretty decent. He will pot shot move, doesn't really throw a lot of combinations, so I do think he's going to struggle against fighters that throw a lot of volume and pressure well. But he has decent power, he has decent pot shotting ability, and his movement is all right, but does not move his head. It seems like he's hittable, and I haven't really seen him in a fight where he had to dig super deep yet. He does look strong. I've seen him get some slam takedowns, but it doesn't really seem like he looks too comfortable on the ground. It doesn't seem like his jiu-jitsu is very good. I've seen him get threatened with submissions and then kind of just back out, stand back up, and I do feel like he has subpar grappling. So I do think that's something that Preston Parsons is going to look to exploit here. And Elder, it does look like he slows down a little bit in fights. And coming up to 170, fighting a bigger guy, I think that could be a little bit even more pronounced in this fight. So do question the cardio a little bit of Elder. But Preston Parsons, his striking looks like it's improving. He's still kind of rudimentary defensively. He'll stand tall and he keeps his head right in the air, but he's gotten better with keeping his hands high, and he's getting a little bit better with, crouching a little bit, being a little bit more mobile, and also kind of just hiding that target, not being as, upright with his chin. And he's gotten a little bit better at putting combinations together behind the right cross. He throws some nice elbows, and he's aggressive. He likes to use combinations to back guys to the fence, and then he has pretty good wrestling. Decent rear kicks to the body, to the head. I don't really think he should look to kick in this fight. I think he just needs to use a high guard, use combinations, back Elder up, try to take him down. And his last fight, he did get knocked out, but that was against a lot higher level fighter, and I don't think he performed horrible, even though he did get finished in the first round. He's a grappler. He's going to want to close the distance and put his opponent on his back. He's fairly good in the clinch. He's aggressive. He pushes the pace, and Parsons will throw some nice combinations, nice elbows when he has fighters against the fence. Pretty good takedowns, and on top, he's aggressive. He has good back takes. He has a nice guillotine, and he has a hell of a squeeze. I've seen him quickly choke fighters unconscious. Pretty good ground and pound. You'll use his ground and pound to set up submissions. And I think he's going to have a big advantage on the ground, especially in the top position. And this fight's going to be interesting because I do think that Parsons, with his 8 first-round finishes, his other win is a second-round finish. So both these guys are used to going out there, finishing the fight early, and it could be explosive. So I'm going to pick Parsons by submission here. I think that it's not an easy fight. Elder might be a little bit more technical on the feet, but I think his size disadvantage, combined with me thinking that Elder is not the greatest grappler, has me leaning towards Parsons. Both fighters are still green. They're inexperienced. But I think that Parsons is going to be able to go in there and get the first round submission. So give me Preston Parsons to pick up his first UFC W. And I like this fight too. This is a badass fight right here with Aoriqileng taking on Cameron Else. And I think some people are sleeping on Cameron Else a little bit in this matchup. I think it could be a fun fight. But Aoriqileng, he lost his last fight. It was a real close decision loss. So far in his UFC career, he's had 2 good performances, but hasn't been able to get in the win column. This definitely is a make or break fight for him, and I do anticipate he comes hard as always. Cameron Else, he's making the drop down to 125 pounds. Had an unsuccessful UFC debut, but had to fight Kyler Phillips, and obviously, that's a pretty high-level guy for your first UFC fight. If Else can make 125 and have a good weight cut, the guy's going to be huge. He was a big 135er, and he's a dangerous fighter. He's a killer be killed guy. He comes out like a house on fire, a ton of early finishes. Most famous win is his 35-second Anaconda choke victory over Paddy Pimblett. But he has 6 finishes in under 1 minute. All of his victories have came in the first round. And he's had 15 fights. Only 1 has gone to decision. He's lost all 3 of his fights that went past the first round. So, Else goes in there and he just tries to take you out early, man. But he's a wild guy. On the feet, he likes to brawl. And he tries to bait fighters to throw at him so he can level change. But he has big power. And he'll let go with reckless abandon in his hooks, his overhands. His last fight, his uppercut looked better and more dangerous. And he has some speed. But everything is wide. He doesn't really have the greatest chin either. And that, along with his basically non-existent defense, has gotten him finished with strikes 4 times. But I will say, though, in his UFC debut, he did seem a little bit more composed. He wasn't as willing to absorb damage to give damage. And he seemed a little bit more confident in his stand-up. But on the ground is where Else thrives. He has nasty front chokes. He throws some really heavy elbows. He has real nice ground and pound. Pretty good timing on the takedowns. And in the clinch, he'll try to land these head and arm throws. He's pretty good at those. But obviously, I have seen them backfire as well. And he pulls guys on top of him. But he doesn't really have an issue being on bottom. He'll create scrambles and then try to catch front chokes or try to get a submission off his back. Pretty good up kicks as well. But he does make mistakes on the ground. He will give his back to stand up. His last fight, he got hit with a really big elbow towards the end of the first round, and I think it kind of ended the fight. But in the second round, he gave his back, got finished with punches. And Else does push a crazy pace, so it seems like he doesn't really sustain it. After the first round, he'll start to really slow down. And it seems like once that gas tank is gone, he does look for the door fairly quickly. If you give him a way out, it seems like he likes to take it. So goes for the kill early. And then, if he can't get the finish, then I think he kind of struggles a little bit. And for Aoriqileng, he's a guy that has pretty technical striking. He has nice boxing, and he has some power in his punches. He has good counters, and he stays pretty sharp, but he does like to pressure and stay right in that firing lane. So, I mean, early on, there is going to be, a bit of there is going to be a bit of danger there for Aori, because if he gets clipped with a huge shot, gets rocked, and then else gets on the neck, it could be night real early, and that's how Cameron Elsa is going to get the win. So Aori has to be very defensively sound early, try not to get clipped, try not to get in a brawl, because Else has that big power, man. I mean, you have to give it to him. But Aori, over the long run, is going to be the much more technical striker, stays tighter, he throws nice kicks, and I feel like overall he's going to be, the guy that can pace himself better, be a little bit more consistent, and if he can get out of that first round, he'll probably be able to end up getting the finish. He has good takedown defense. He hasn't been submitted in quite some time. So I feel as if he can survive that early onslaught from Else, he will be able to get the win. But that early onslaught from Else is scary, man. And I think Cameron Else is a live underdog in this one, especially if he can make weight and looks good making weight. But I will go with Aori, and I will say that he wins by second or third round TKO. So up next, we got the return of Tyson Pedro, and he's going to be taking on Ike Villanueva. Tyson Pedro, he's a fighter who made an immediate impact in the UFC. He got 2 first-round finishes. He beat Paul Craig. He beat Khalil Roundtree, some really good guys. Those wins aged well for him. And then he was given a step up of competition. He faced Ilir Latifi, lost that fight. He did bounce back in his next fight, got the first-round submission victory, but then was defeated again by OSP. And then he fought Shogun Hua, lost that fight as well. But yeah, I mean, I do think Pedro, he is coming off of some real difficult injuries. I mean, he had 3 separate knee surgeries. He tore his ACL twice, tore his meniscus. But if he could string a couple wins together, he kind of has that Tai Tuivasa thing about him, and they're actually brother-in-laws. They have similar personalities. So if he could start winning, he will have a place in the division and will be a decent-sized name. But he needs to put the performances in the cage together. But Ike Villanueva, he hasn't really had a lot of success in the octagon, but he always brings it, so the UFC keeps him around. And he's been willing to come in on short notice. He's fought different weight classes. He probably never turns down a fight, but 1-4 in his first 5 UFC fights. Kill or be killed. All 5 of his fights have not gone to decision. But I do think probably this is his last opportunity to win and save his job once again. For his opponent's style, Tyson Pedro, he's big. He's 6'3", he has a 79-inch reach. He has good kicks. He'll throw front kicks, round kicks to the body, rear leg high kicks, some nice question mark kicks. In his fight with OSP, he landed some question mark kicks followed by a rear cross that rocked OSP pretty badly. And you'll throw some decent low kicks. In terms of the hands, he really only throws 1-2s. But he's very fast. He has good timing. He has low volume, and he's still green. He throws naked kicks. He doesn't really react to being pressured the greatest. But I do feel like he's improved his footwork. And in his last couple of fights, it looked like he was a little bit more composed on the feet. He only has 1 knockout on the feet, I think, in his career. And I am curious to see, during this time off, if he regressed, if he's progressed. I mean, it's hard to say with those injuries. He is only 30, but man, I mean, I'm kind of curious to see how he's going to look. But he has a good clinch game. He has good control against the fence. He has nice body lock takedowns. And Pedro, when he can get the double underhooks, he looks very strong. And he has good knees. He has good elbows off the break. When he can get on top, it looks like he's solid there. He has good transitions, a good submission game, hard ground and pound. He submitted Khalil Roundtree with a rear naked choke. He was able to crucifix and finish Paul Craig with the elbows. Hit a Kimura on Saperbek Safarov. So, yeah, I mean, the guy has 5 submission wins. And I don't think he's going to have to worry about any type of offensive takedowns from Villanueva. It has happened to him in other fights where multiple guys have actually been able to do it. OSP was able to take him down and submit him, or I think he actually pulled OSP on top of him with the ill-advised takedown, but Shogun took him down, held him down in the second round. We saw Ilir Latifi hold him down, and yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen for him in this fight, but his takedown defense has been an issue for him in the past. And Ike Villanueva, he's a good boxer. He'll try to work inside and put together some combinations, body head combos. He has some power, and you'll let go with some, decent hand speed. But, I do believe that when he moved up in weight, you start to see the guys take the shots better, and he hasn't been able to knock the guys out quite as easily as he did when he was at 185 pounds. So, yeah, I don't really think Villanueva offers a lot either outside of the hands. He doesn't really throw kicks, and I think that could be an issue for him in this fight against a super long opponent, just trying to close that distance. He has shown to be very durable, but he's gotten finished with strikes in his last 4 losses. One was due to a cut, but the other 2 he got finished once to the body and then once to the head. So, I mean, I feel like as if he maybe is waning a little bit in his durability. Nick Negumereanu knocked him out in his last fight. And Ike does not really have a great clinch game. You have seen him struggle in the clinch against guys like Chase Sherman and guys like Jordan Wright. And I do feel like Pedro is superior in the clinch. Sometimes Villanueva will look to kind of clinch guys against the cage and slow the fight down. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that effectively without taking damage against Pedro. And Villanueva's cardio, just like Pedro's, is questionable. They both slow down. And Villanueva doesn't have that same power he has in the first round as he has in the second and third. This fight, I think there's no way you can bet on it. I mean, people may think pulling the trigger on Pedro would be smart, but I can't trust him coming off 3 neurosurgeries. That's on top of never winning a fight that's past the first round, this being his second fight in the United States. Villanueva isn't a good fighter. He's not as technical. He's not as well-rounded, but he has a puncher's chance, and he's going to be aggressive. Villanueva, I think his durability is waning a little bit. He struggled with some of the weapons that Pedro is good at. He got finished with clinch elbows against Chase Sherman. He struggled with the kicking game of Jordan Wright and Marcin Proc. Got hit with some big elbows and knees in the clinch against Wright as well. And I think Pedro is most likely going to win by knockout or submission in the first 2 rounds. Probably the first round, because that's where he's gotten all of his finishes and wins so far. But yeah, I just want to see Pedro prove it to me one time coming off the injuries. But I think Pedro should get the job done. And continue through the card. In this one, we got a striking fight between Dwight Grant and Sergey Kandasko. Sergey Kandasko, he's coming back off a layoff. He hasn't fought in well over 2 years at this point. I'm not sure why. I think some of it was due to pandemic, some maybe due to injury. But he's only 29 years old, so he could have gotten better over that time. And he's a striker. He has that combat sambo striking style, light on his feet. He'll bounce in and out, good movement. He likes to look for those big looping hooks. Favorite punch is definitely that big left hook. He throws it over and over during his fights. And he did drop Rustam Akman with it in his UFC debut. He comes with that big looping overhand right. He'll throw the left hook overhand right combo. He likes to throw that right uppercut left hook combo. Pretty good kicks as well. He has good low kicks. He'll mix in the spinning attacks. Stays active, throws a good amount of volume out there, mixes up the target. He doesn't really have huge power, but if he can land one of those big overhands or hooks clean, he can hurt his opponent. And opponents have had success against Kandasko when they can cut off the cage, throw combinations, and back him up. His hands and defense aren't the best in the pocket. He tends to float his chin. He doesn't move his head very much. I think low kicks are a smart thing to do if you're fighting Sergey as well, to try to limit his movement. And he isn't really an offensive grappler. He will mix in some doubles sometimes. In the third round of his win against Rustam Akman, he decided to try and wrestle. And he did get tired in that fight, and I do think that's why he decided to wrestle. He can scramble fairly well, and even when he gets taken down, he doesn't accept bottom position. But in that fight with Rockman, when he started trying to grapple with him, he ended up getting put on his back, and you could tell he's just a little bit green in the wrestling transitions, and he can't be held down, can't be clinched against the fence. And you saw his last fight. I mean, it was a super boring fight, but Rustam Khabilov was just able to totally negate him, take him down at will, control on top. And yeah, I mean, one thing though is I don't think Dwight Grant is going to exploit the cardio or the grappling in Kandasko. So those are things I think that Kandasko doesn't have to worry about in this fight. But Dwight Grant's someone with a similar style to Sergey. He likes to move around on the outside, and he has long reach, and then he'll try to close the distance with the big looping punches. And he cracks. I mean, I think that he doesn't kick as much, and he doesn't move quite as well as Kandasko, but he sits down on his punches and tries to throw with more power. He's going to be looking to land those big counters, and I think Sergey's going to be trying to keep that volume high and just kind of out-volume Dwight Grant. Dwight Grant has kind of had an issue with guys that can move on the outside and throw volume. And I do think it's kind of going to be a close fight. I mean, I think both guys are going to land. I think it's going to be kind of a low volume type of thing. But I think Kandasko is going to mix it up a little bit more. He's going to throw more kicks. I think he's going to be able to maybe even mix in a takedown or two. And even though I don't think he's a great wrestler, I mean, when both guys get tired, maybe that takedown will be the difference in the fight for Sergey. So I think this could be like a split decision, real close fight. I think there's several fights on this card that could be close in that way. But with this one, I'm going to go with Sergey Kandasko to get the nod on the judges' scorecards. And this next fight's another short notice fight. We have Marc-Andre Barriault stepping up to face Jordan Wright. It was originally supposed to be Roman Kopylov versus Jordan Wright. And now it's a way different style for Wright and Marc-Andre Barriault. I think Wright and Kopylov are going to have a fun striking fight from distance. And I think Barriault's going to look to kind of grind it out. A couple things I don't like about Marc-Andre Barriault coming into this fight is he wasn't able to make 185. So it is a 190 catch weight. And Jordan Wright's a big guy. I think he's going to benefit from that weight cut or the weight allowance more than Marc-Andre Barriault. And Marc-Andre Barriault just got knocked out unconscious a little over 2 months ago against Chidi Njokuani. I think he's coming back very quickly. But Barriault, he's a pressure fighter. He likes to walk fighters down, land that right cross, the 1-2, the 2-3 combo, and he will throw some big overhands, big hooks, but he's just not a very technical striker. His kicks are sloppy. He could be a little slow. He loads up. He reacts really big to feints, and he likes to shell up to defend strikes. So the body shots are there. Fighters could freeze him with feints and then tee off, late shots through his guard. He's been able to eat shots quite well in his fights, keep the pressure and break guys down, and that's how he's been able to get victories, make fights ugly, get him against the cage, dirty box. His wrestling isn't really the greatest, but, you know, he could kind of just control you. He has good strength, then maybe hit a takedown or two along with some clinch control time, cage pushing, and kind of win the fight that way. He did get knocked out in 16 seconds in his last fight, so his durability is a little questionable, and there has been guys that have been able to take him down in the past. I don't think that's going to be the case in this fight, but Jordan Wright, he's a really big guy for middleweight. He's a dynamic striker. He's a good athlete. He's explosive. He's powerful. There's some really nice weapons. He has the good straight punches. He has a nice counter left hook. He has good timing on his kicks, really nice leg kicks, round kicks, spinning kicks. And, you know, he looks like he's a bit of a soft guy, but he's a killer in the cage. I mean, he's kill or be killed. When he hurts someone, he usually doesn't let him off the hook. And he's had issues with fighters getting inside on him or aggressive with combos. He does have a habit of keeping his head high and right on center line. And he's been knocked out 3 times during his UFC career. But he has a pretty good clinch game. He has good tie knees, body head. He finished Ike Villanueva in the clinch. And Barriault's going to try to use his size and bully right, push him against the cage, dirty box, and try to break him. If you ask me, though, Krzysztof Jotko laid the blueprint for Jordan Wright to follow to defeat Barriault. I think Jordan Wright's much more dangerous. He has more serious power than Jotko, but both possess good footwork movement, solid clinch games. Jotko just basically moved, feinted, touched Barriault when he could, and then when Barriault chased him, got aggressive, he just clinched him against the fence. And Barriault has the same game plan to defeat everyone. He wants to suppress guys, push him against the fence, dirty box, maybe hit a takedown or two, and try to grind it out. He has some okay power, so when he connects, he can finish opponents, but yeah, I think this is another fight that is 50-50. It could go either way, to be honest. I think that, you know, it's either going to come down to, you know, if Jordan Wright is able to knock him out in the first round, then I think that could be one of his paths to victory. Or if he's able to control the clinch for at least 2 rounds before he's getting tired, then I think he could maybe squeak out a decision. But Barriault's path to victory is to survive that first round, or, you know, just get inside and land those big punches, make Wright uncomfortable and make him kind of crumble, or survive that first round and grind it out. So this one I think could go either way. I'm going to go with Jordan Wright, though. I'm going to say Jordan Wright catches that first round knockout. I think that Barriault's a little bit of a punching bag, and I think Wright throws really hard and could blast him out of there in that first round. So I think Barriault is coming back off that knockout loss, is leaning me more towards Wright as well. Wright's the underdog. I think it's a real close fight. So I'm going to go with Jordan Wright. And this should be one of the better fights on the card for sure, with Air Charles Jourdain taking on Groovy Lando Vannata. And Charles Jourdain and Lando Vannata are both fighters who entered the UFC with a lot of hype, but they still have yet to really reach their full potential, in my opinion. both are really fun fighters to watch, but neither has been able to put a win streak together in the UFC really. And both have alternated wins and losses since joining the UFC. Both guys have fought pretty good competition, but they need to start to separate themselves from the pack if they ever want to get out of that kind of mid-card range. So the winner of this fight's going to position themselves well. And Vannata, he got the win in his featherweight debut his last fight, made the drop down and looked pretty good. He was able to beat Mike Grundy. He was the underdog. And he's had 11 UFC fights now at this point. So he's a veteran and he needs to start putting some wins together. He still never won 2 fights in a row. Maybe the drop down to 145 is going to be what he needs to go on a run here. For Charles Jourdain, kind of the same story for him. He's coming off a win and needs to try to continue that momentum. But Charles Jourdain, he's a southpaw. He has really nice kicks on the outside. He'll go low, go high with his kicks. He throws really heavy leg kicks, good high kicks. And he isn't the best boxer, but he has good footwork, movement, and speed. And he'll move around, and then as fighters try to walk him down, he'll explode in with the left cross or the right hook. And he has good power. When he finds his range, his timing is good. He can start to put together some combinations behind his straight left. And he'll explode with the left cross, follow with the right hook to the body or the head. His right uppercut is dangerous. He'll land that left cross switch stance and land another big left hook, and tends to rock his opponents when he can land a couple left hands in a row. And fighters that walk Jourdain down, force him to box, and force him to be in close range, force him to wrestle, those are guys that give Jourdain the most problems. He's not the best defensively. He has a good high guard, but he leaves his body available. And then when he looks to return, he loads up and guys can counter him. And Jourdain wants space where he can dart in with his speed, his left cross, throw kicks. Jourdain fights with a ton of confidence, and he'll mix in these flying knees and Superman punches and things like that. And those things also can get you countered, get you put on your back. But Jourdain's super durable. He's willing to take damage to dish damage out late. And he showed that in a lot of his fights. Most recently against Marcelo Rojo. He likes to pressure and control the center. And, the way to beat him is by getting inside. So Jourdain's fights usually just end up being wars. I mean, it's either Jourdain's volume of attacks, his power, his speed, wear down his opponent, and then he takes him out late or wins a good decision. Or, fighters pressure him to the fence, work on the inside, work their grappling, and they can kind of negate Charles Jourdain. And Charles Jourdain, due to exploding in with his punches, does close the distance. He falls into the clinch a lot. And he has a pretty solid clinch game. He is aggressive with his body punches. He has good knees. He'll exit the breaks with nice attacks. But he isn't the best grappler. His defensive wrestling is improved, and he does have dangerous front chokes. But good wrestlers will be able to take him down and hold him down. We've seen that with Desmond Green, with Andre Fili. He is a guy that will make you work. He does have an active guard. He'll throw elbows. He'll work for submissions. He'll work to try to stand back up. He has good heart. And his cardio is usually really good. The only fight that I've seen him really get tired is the fight with Julian Erosa. He did get darshed in that fight. But front chokes are something that Jourdain likes to look for as well. And I don't really see this fight becoming much of a grappling match. But Vannata, he's another guy that's a great striker. He could fight moving forwards or backwards, and he's very mobile. He has good movement, good footwork. He likes to play with his hands down, feint a lot, bounce in and out, try to get fighters to throw at him. And he wants to get his reads and then walk guys into the big shots. Due to that, he can be low volume, but he also is connected with some dynamic knockouts throughout his career due to that as well. And he'll switch stances. He throws kicks well from both stances. He'll throw a lot of leg kicks. He'll try to let fighters close the distance and then counter with the 2-3s, with the 3-2s. And you also walk fighters down with his hands down, try to get him to throw at him and then counter with the punches as well. He's really good in the pocket with his pull counters. He attacks the body pretty effectively. I think that's something that he needs to do diligently in this fight. And I do think he has the better hands. He throws more volume, better combinations. I think his path to victory is to use his kicks to back up Jourdain and then beat him up with the boxing. Maybe even try to mix in some takedowns or just some threat of the takedown, so Jourdain has that in the back of his head. And Lando likes to fight at his pace, which usually isn't the fastest pace. So Jourdain may try to, push the pace, make Vannata work at more of a pace that he doesn't like and make him slow down and break him, because he has slowed down in the past. And Charles Jourdain likes to stick in and get in wars, but in this fight he needs to be more disciplined. I mean, Obviously, there are moments where he's going to be wild and show why he's fun to watch, but he's the faster fighter. And he has to use kicks on the outside, stop Landon's offense with the low kicks with the high kicks, try to use his speed with that left cross. Don't load up and use short combos. And if he tries to stick in and try to walk Vannata down or control the center, that's where he's going to have an issue. I mean, Lando throws better boxing combinations. He has good counter punching. He has a superior power in his hands, and I think he takes damage better. He's fought up a weight class. I've seen him take massive shots without going away. I think he's the superior wrestler, but he has not really shown the good ability to control guys on the ground. Yeah, I feel like this fight, man, it could go either way again. I mean, I feel like I'm saying that in a lot of these fights, but I think that Lando is going to be able to be a little bit more effective in the pocket, land the more eye-popping shots. It is the small cage. Both fighters like going to war. I think it's going to become a dogfight, and I think Lando's going to land the heavier shots, do a little bit more work on the inside. I think he might be able to get a takedown or two, even though I don't think they're going to be that effective. I'm going to go with Lando Vannata to win a decision in this one. And this next fight, I mean, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one. We got Chase Sherman coming in here on real short notice, taking on Alexander Romanov. And yeah, I'm not a guy that necessarily is the highest on Romanov in terms of there's some people that think he has title potential and things like that. And I do think he's going to maybe run into some roadblocks. But Chase Sherman, I mean, the guy has proven that he's just kind of untrustworthy in the UFC. He slows down majorly in his fights after the first round. And recently, he hasn't even been looking good early. He got submitted in the first round against Jake Collier in his last fight. He doesn't really come in shape and ready to fight when he has full camp. So jumping in on really short notice, I don't necessarily think he's going to have great cardio. I think he's coming in here getting a paycheck. I know he said the UFC doubled his pay, and he said that they gave him a new fight contract. So that's a big incentive to take this fight. But, man, I mean, he's always had issues with grapplers. I do think his jab, you know, and maybe he could throw the jab 1-2, land clean and knock him out. But Romanov's probably going to smash this dude. He's probably going to close the distance, get on top of him, and, yeah, finish him on the ground by submission or TKO. So I think this fight's pretty self-explanatory. I think Romanov's going to finish him either in the first or second round and keep it moving with his career, hopefully move on to bigger and better matchups here. So keeping it moving through the card here, we got a really fun fight in this one with Mudaerji taking on Manel Kape. And high-level fight right here. At 125, every fighter is super skilled, but these guys are top of the food chain. Both fighters are currently on win streaks, with Mudaerji winning 3 fights in a row, Kape winning 2 fights in a row. Manel Kape has done it in Manel Kape fashion. He's knocked both of his opponents out in the first round. He did lose his first 2 UFC fights, Manel Kape, so he's still trying to separate himself from that, but his losses came against fighters who are ranked inside the top 10. Mudaerji, he lost his UFC debut to Louis Smolka, but has won 3 fights in a row since then. When he fought Smolka, he was still training in China. He was only 23 years old. So now that he's 26, now that he's training at American Top Team, I think that he's going to look significantly better, and he has looked significantly better in his fights. In this matchup, he has the benefit of training at American Top Team, like I just said, but the thing about that is his one of his main training partners, I've seen him working with him for this camp, Alexandre Pantoja, did defeat Manel Kape rather recently. So you have a training partner that could give you a little bit of tips on Kape. And also, Mateus Nicolau also defeated him from American Top Team. So that's 2 guys that have been able to get looks on Manel Kape. You've had the coaches do the game plans to get the victory on Manel Kape. And they both came in with a good game plan. They fought long. They've looked to counter. They didn't brawl. And both fighters are ranked within the top 15. They're in the 10 to 15 range. So the winner of this fight is going to get a top 10 matchup. It's a big fight. And Mudaerji, I mean, the guy's an elite striker. He has a long frame. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. He has tremendous footwork, side-to-side movement. He's super fast. His feints are excellent. He's a very dangerous guy with that rear hand. He's a southpaw. He has a really clean, straight left. Super evasive. And then he likes to walk opponents into that left cross. He'll attack body head. He has a good left hook, or right hook, check hook counter. He has really nice kicks. He'll throw kicks to all parts of the body. Really fast, fluid kicks. He'll attack with side kicks. He really likes to keep things long. He mixes up his weapons and target really well. He'll move, stick guys with low kicks, high kicks, body punches, body kicks. He does it all. I'm a big fan of how this guy strikes. His 1-2s, His left cross is definitely his most dangerous weapon, but he sets it up by mixing it all up, and he fights very smart. He knows his opponents have to come to him, so he uses effective pressure, but waits, feints, moves in and out, doesn't give fighters a lot of chances to touch him, doesn't get in brawls, doesn't stick in the pocket. Manel Kape is going to have to figure out how to close that gap and get on the inside. I haven't seen an opponent attack with leg kicks on Mudaerji, and that's probably because he's southpaw and because he's long. He has that good in and out movement. They don't want to get sniped with that counter cross. But Kape, he's not someone that throws a lot of calf kicks, but I think that could be a good game plan to try to maybe use here. Mudaerji grappling-wise is questionable. He's clearly worked on that, though. His takedown defense is much improved. He has very good speed and movement, so it's hard to time takedowns on him anyways. In the past, he was always looking to land that flashy kill shot. He would back flash to the fence and, become more stationary. But now, with more experience, he's shown the smarts to move, not get backed up, never stay static. He's shown really good initial takedown defense, and he has good balance. He's tall, so he's hard to take down in general. And he will attack off bottom, but his aggressiveness to attack with submissions has gotten him in trouble, like in his debut. He'll, throw up submissions that get his guard passed, and he did give his back against Smolka and ended up getting finished in that one. I do think that Mudaerji, he's dangerous on the ground as well, but I don't think that he can compete on the ground with a guy like Manel Kape, who's a black belt, who's a decent wrestler, and I think that mixing in the takedowns would be a smart game plan for Manel Kape if he wants to do that, but Manel Kape, he's a bad man on the feet. He has some of the bigger power in the history of the flyweight division. He's super confident. He's durable. And he fights in a similar fashion to Mudaerji. He's very fast, and he likes to use that lateral footwork movement, pull fighters into counters. He has good kicks, but his hands are the most dangerous part of his game by a long shot. He's more of a headhunter. He's more of a knockout artist. His pull two is super dangerous. When fighters close the distance, he can back him. He can land that pull two. And then we can back guys to the fence. He has lightning fast hands, throw really nasty combinations. His last fight, was kind of quintessential Kape, putting that combo together and flattening Zhalgas Zhumagulov against the cage. In this fight, he's probably going to have to deal with the fighter who had a similar game plan to the one that Pantoja and Nicolau had. Stay long, move around on the outside, not overextend, don't brawl, don't get over aggressive. And that shut down a ton of the offense from Kape in those two fights. Kape wants fighters to stand right in front of him so he could tee off. At range, Kape doesn't really throw many kicks. He doesn't really, throw a lot of combos either. And his volume can be low because he looks for one-shot counterattacks. And he did knock out Odi Osbourne with a flying knee. He will attack with cartwheel kick spins. So, he will get wild at times, but a lot of his are with the hands. And if guys don't stand in front of him, he doesn't throw the combos. He just looks for more one-shot attacks, like I said, and he can be out-volumed. And he does have a good chin, but I have seen him against guys that move and pull him into shots like Kyoji Horiguchi. I've seen him get rocked and dropped several times. But Manel Kape's a strong guy for the division. He's a black belt. He looks strong in the clinch with his double underhooks, and he has some good blast doubles. On top, I haven't really seen Kape show the greatest top control. I haven't seen him show a great submission game. And he does have issues with fighters taking him down as well. He can overextend on his punches. And when he gets frustrated, he can kind of start to chase, and fighters can time the takedown, take him down. He has pretty good get-ups, but he will give his back to stand up. He has been submitted a couple times. But Kape is a guy in this fight I don't think he's going to have to worry about getting taken down or getting submitted. And one thing about Kape is he has shown great cardio. He tends to pick it up as the fight goes on and try to break fighters. But I think Manel Kape may struggle in this fight. The fact that it's a small cage will help him, but Mudaerji's style-wise is a bad matchup. Kape wants fighters to stand in front of him and exchange. He wants fighters to, back against the fence and stand there. And he wants fighters to make mistakes, overextend so he can counter. Mudaerji does none of those things. He has the height advantage. He has the reach advantage. He has tremendous movement. He has great speed. He stays super long. He never overextends, really. He never gets out of position to be countered. Sometimes he can keep his head on center line and pull back with his chin high, so Kape has to throw more volume, be more aggressive, and look to throw maybe 2, 3, 4 of those crosses instead of just one and, catch Mudaerji's backing up and knock him out. Maybe you could try to mix in some takedowns and wrestling, but I don't really see Kape doing that. And I think Mudaerji, his volume, his speed, his movement, keeping it long, mixing up the target. Whenever Kape loads up for a big shot, just touching him with the leg kick, with the jab, making him reset. Being smart is going to get him the win. So I'm going to go with the slight upset. I'm going to pick sue Mudaerji to go in here and win a fun striking fight. So both these girls, they're going to end up fighting here. They had a fight set in December between these two, but an injury nixed that fight, and they're both going to go settle it on Saturday. Both girls have kind of up and down during their UFC careers. They're both young. De La Rosa 27, Barber 23. And the winner of this fight is going to start moving back towards relevancy, towards the rankings. And the loser, I don't really know. They're going to be in a tough spot. But both these girls are grapplers. Macy Barber, she's super strong. She's physical for the division. She packs power in her punches, but her striking is super ugly. She's improved defensively. She's gotten better with her feints, control of the distance, keeping her hands high. But the problem with that is it's totally taken away from what made her good on the feet in the first place. Barber, in the past, was known for breaking fighters by taking their best shots, closing the distance, getting in the clinch, dirty boxing, putting big power shots together against the cage, and eventually finishing a lot of her opponents. One thing I think that benefited her in her early career for sure was competing at 115 pounds. She was a lot bigger than most of those girls. She could take their punches, and they couldn't take hers, and she just bullied them. And at 125, she's still, in my opinion, one of the stronger girls in the division, but the advantage is not as pronounced. Barber, she still throws big power hooks, but her loading up allows fighters to just be able to stick and move on her fairly effectively. Pressuring Barber is another thing that she doesn't deal with the best. We saw Miranda Maverick do really well with her pressure in her last fight, land that left kick to the body, land some rear crosses, get some takedowns. And Barber, she kind of has short arms, so sometimes her throwing these real tight, hooks kind of even accentuates her short reach. It slows down her speed, and I don't think she's that effective, but she's strong in the clinch, and she has good trips. When she gets on top, she's really solid, big ground and pound, and a lot of her early wins are ground and pound finishes. She struggled with fighters taking her down, and her forward and backwards footwork, her tendency to overextend, does allow fighters to duck under time that takedown, but she's proven not to be hard to take down. In her last fight with Miranda Maverick, she did give her back towards the end of the second round and was kind of getting beat up from that position, but she's shown that, she can work her way back up to her feet, and she can end up usually getting on top or ended up kind of winning that grappling. But in this fight, I think she has to go back to her mauling style. She needs to close the distance, use her power, bully De La Rosa, and try to tire her out, beat her up in close range. For Montana, she's a wrestler, and she's definitely improved her boxing and her distance control. She has a good frame, and she's going to have her 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. She likes to use her movement, walk fighters into her jabs, her crosses, and she's improved her boxing. Her main priority is still really to get fighters to chase her so she can time the double leg, though. And on top, she has pretty solid control. She can grind it out, and she's pretty aggressive. She has good transitions, good ground and pound. She has a few submission wins, a few TKO wins on the grounds. 9 of her 12 wins have came inside the distance. So when De La Rosa gets the takedown, she is looking for the finish. But we have seen her overpowered. We've seen her reversed, held down, controlled in the clinch against girls like Andrea Lee and Nico Montano that are pretty strong. De La Rosa is good off her back with the arm bars. Her guard is dangerous, but I think if Barber takes her down, she likely will be able to avoid that and do damage. One thing that definitely works in De La Rosa's detriment, and isn't really her fault, but she has a weak chin, or a weak nose, It seems like in a lot of her fights, she gets her nose busted, slows down, and it's a bad visual for the judges. But she's an extremely tough chick, and she comes in shape. She trains at elevation. She always has good cardio. And the game plan for De La Rosa is going to be to use her length, land the jab, the rear cross, get Barber anxious, and then time the takedowns, try to use control. I don't really feel like De La Rosa has the power to keep Barber off of her, so the takedowns are going to be a huge part of the game for her if she is to win, if you ask me. Barber, she should live in the clinch. She should look to walk through the jabs, the crosses, De La Rosa, get her against the fence, beat her up there. I've seen Buena Silva beat up De La Rosa in the clinch. I think taking De La Rosa down may be part of the game plan as well, but just make sure to know that you have to be ready for some submission potential there. To me, the value side is Montana De La Rosa. She could land some nice eye-popping shots, pop Barber's head back with some straight punches, get a couple takedowns, steal the fight with activity. But Barber's going to be stronger. I think she could defend the takedowns. Even if she gets taken out early, I think she can make it hard to hold down, make herself hard to hold down, and then eventually start to stuff, turn the tide of the fight. And I'm going to go with Barber by decision in this one, kind of via cage pushing, maybe landing some big punches. And I think it's a closer fight than the line indicates, but I'm going to go with the favorite. I'm going to go with Macy Barber. And in this next one, we got my guy, Clay Guida. He's coming back. He's taking on Claudio Puelles. And Clay Guida is looking to get his first win post 40, keep his historic run rolling. This is going to be his 32nd walk to the octagon. And remarkably, this is pretty good, man. Since 2007, he's never had an injury that's taken him out for a year. He's competed at least once every single calendar year he's been in the UFC. So this is going to be the 15th year in a row from 2007 to 2022 that Guida's had at least one UFC fight. And he called out Puelles after his last victory. They were on the same card late last year. He got his wish, so let's see if he can deliver. Puelles, he's looked good lately as well. He's won back-to-back fights as the underdog. And if he can beat Clay Guida, that's going to be a big statement. So Puelles, he's a pretty big lightweight, and he's a southpaw. His striking is not really the greatest, but he has a nice left kick. He'll throw some good left body kicks, good left head kicks, and they're powerful. His last fight, he was throwing that left kick and then following with the left cross, and that was effective for him. And pressuring Puelles and forcing him to strike on the back foot where he can't kick, where he doesn't have that distance to land that cross is definitely the way to give him trouble. I believe unless Puelles just lands a super big body kick or head kick that hurts Guida or a big counter too, I don't think he's going to deal well with the pressure boxing style of Guida, the body shots to head shots. I think Puelles is going to have to make it a grappling match to win and try to find that submission with the leg attack probably. I'm really not too sure how Guida's leg lock submission defense is, so that's something that Puelles is going to be looking for. And his guard is fairly threatening. He's a good grappler. The guy has a great single leg Puelles. He times it really well. On top, he can lay and pray, and he also has, good leg attacks, like I said. He's shown both of those. Like in his fight with Marcus Mariano with Jordan Levitt, he showed more control on top, and then he showed the ability to hit knee bars in his fight with Chris Grutzmacher and his fight with Phillipe Silva. This fight's going to be interesting to see what game plan he comes in with, because I don't really believe he'll be able to take down an amazing wrestler in Clay Guida. Clay Guida went in there with an Olympic wrestler in his last fight. He wasn't taken down in that one. Puelles, he's shown pretty good heart, but I think that his cardio, especially against the pace that Guida pushes, is going to get tested here. And I think Clay Guida on the feet is going to be very effective in this fight. I think his body to headshot combinations with the hooks, pressuring, keeping Puelles on the back foot constantly is going to be effective. And I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns of Puelles. I think that he'll be able to get takedowns himself, control against the cage, and just make it a Guida type of fight. He's going to have to defend the sweeps and the submissions on bottom. And but I just think Guida's going to go out there, gas Puelles out with his pressure, with his boxing, with his takedown game. I am a little bit worried of the submission game of Puelles, but I think I'm going to ride with Guida's experience, his durability, his pressure once again here. I don't know if, necessarily Guida can finish Puelles, but I think he's going to be able to put that, Guida pressure on him and, beat him over 3 rounds. If he does finish him, I think it'll be later once he wears him down, but I'm going to go with Guida by decision. And then finally, we have the main event here, and I love this fight too. I think that this fight is going to be a war. I don't really see this fight going to decision, and you don't usually say that in a fight between 225-pound women, but Amanda Lemos, Jessica Andrade, it's going to be Brazil on Brazil violence. Both these girls bring it. They're two of the more fun girls to watch in the division. You see Lemos, and I do think she's a little bit more technical of a striker. Lemos, she has pretty good movement, and she has real nice leg kicks. Her jab is really good, good left hook, and she walks girls into that 1-2, her overhand right, and she has good hand speed. She puts combinations together well. She has heavy round kicks, front kicks to the body, spinning wheel kicks, and she's definitely a dangerous girl, but she leaves a lot to be desired. When fighters force her to trade in the pocket, she gets very wild. She doesn't move her head. She'll lean back with her chin in the air, and she will get backed up towards the cage, and I think that her cardio is definitely something that you have to be worried about. You've seen her gas out. Even in her last fight with Angela Hill, it seemed like she got a little bit tired. And her grappling is okay. She will hit some body lock trips and clinches and things like that. But I think that against Jessica Andrade, her grappling is not as good. We've seen her get taken down by Angela Hill. We've seen how on the ground off of her back, Lemos is not very good. So I just think that Andrade making it a grappling match would be a very smart game plan for her here. And Andrade obviously is the shorter girl with the lesser reach, and that's usually how she has to deal with in all her fights. But I think she needs to come back with that game plan that she had against Rose in the second fight. The head movement, pressure, combinations, get on the inside, get the takedown. And Andrade, man, I mean, I feel like she's hard to pick against in this one. It's a 5-round fight. She has so much experience against the highest level of competition, whereas Lemos doesn't have that. And she's proven herself in all facets of the game. She has the pressure. She has good pace. She has great durability. She can wrestle. She can strike. She has power. Lemos, she's proven she could strike. She has power. She has a fairly good submission game. She's technical. But her cardio isn't up to par. I don't necessarily know if she's can take those shots from Andrade. Not many girls can. And I just feel like Andrade is going to be able to probably get Lemos out of there once she starts to get a little bit more tired. That second, third, fourth round. I think if Lemos wins, she's going to get that early finish. So I think either girl wins, it's going to be a finish. But I'm going to go with the favorite here. I'm going to go with Batisteka. I'm going to go with the former UFC champ, Jessica Andrade, to come in here, and I'll say she gets a third round TKO victory. So there's the full card breakdown and prediction for UFC Vegas 52. And as far as my parlay of the week, I'm not going to do a parlay of the week. I'm just going to do a play of the week this week, and that's going to be on Mudaerji for my most confident pick. And that's a little bit tough on this card, but I mean, I guess I'll go with obviously, like, there's the huge favorites like Alexander Romanov and Dean Barry, but I guess I'll say my most confident pick are those two and Tyson Pedro, and then I'll say Preston Parsons. So those are my most confident picks, but I think a lot of these fights are close. I think it's going to be some upsets on this one, and maybe some people upsetting the apple cart, but I'm going to go with those people as my most confident picks. And for my play of the week, like I said, is Mudaerji. So yeah, if you guys want to get some content for Bellator 278, Bellator 279, LFA, KSW, Fury FC, the PFL is back in full swing, so I'm going to be doing that every week. Check out the Patreon, and yeah, you'll get not only access to the bets, but access to additional content, access to availability to talk to me, talk to the community that we built over there. So yeah, it's a fun time. Definitely recommend everyone that's not over there to go and check it out. It helps me continue doing these videos and continue the channel as well. And then make sure to like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed. I do these videos every week. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will be back next week to break down the next UFC card.